What I want to unpack here again in the video is the rhetoric of this man who was considered by many to be the entrepreneur of the year, the entrepreneur of the decade. So let's go to the video to slowly unpack, and feel free to jump in if you want to comment or say something, but I'll go back to the beginning and see some of the aspect of the discourse.
Most important pillars of our life is where we live, who we're with, who our kids and our friends are, where we work, and then how we study, how we learn, how we grow as human beings.
So here he opens, and it already feels very structured. It feels like he knows what he's talking about. First, second, third. But he's also going quite fast, so we don't necessarily have time to follow, but it conveys a certain sense of expertise, of someone who's knowledgeable, who's thought about it. And he's talking about big topics: how we live, who we are, how we study, how we work. So it feels like he's not only knowledgeable and he has thought through what he's talking about. There's something bigger here. Yes, Sarah, you have a reaction.
Yes. I don't know what's like, if it has like a name in the literature, but there is something called like the yes corridor. When you like start to talk about something what are true for the most of the people, and they will be like yes, 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 and then like when you started to build this kind of agreement between you and your audience, then like whatever you say in the end they're gonna be like yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's starting with things that are very broad. So how
Yes,
are you going
yes,
to
like
disagree with that?
basic things that are statements that are true and most of the people are agree.
So that's a very good way to start your speech. You started with something that not only no one is going to disagree with, but everybody is going to agree. So he's doing something
Yes.
very elegant. He's, as you say, is opening the yes corridor. He's opening on something that we all agree with. It's almost a platitude, but it's also conveys the impression that he is knowledgeable and confident, and he knows what he's talking about. So he's doing two things at the same time. He's talking about things that are easy to agree with. So everyone, as you say, everyone in the room already agrees. And he's making us feel like he knows what he's talking about. So he's doing two things at the same time, which is quite elegant.
And I like to say, if you had to prioritize them, first personal growth, then your partner, your spouse, then your kids, then your friends, then business.
So now he moves on, and you see it's the same rhetoric. First, then, very structured. And again, it goes quite fast. So it's hard to, say, well, what did you say? So I'll just pause for a second. First, your personal growth, then your partner, then your children. Isn't that a bit strange to put your children third in the order of importance of things that you should take care of? And, also your personal growth before your partner. Here again, the idea is to see how the rhetoric works. And it's just to show you that he's playing on some things that conveys a sense of agreement with him. It's not about what is true and what is false. It's about what works, and to show you that he's using yet again the same pattern and structure. First, then, as if it was a logical demonstration. Whether it's logical or not, true or false, is not the question here. Again, in the art of rhetoric, Aristotle says it's about finding what are the means of persuasion. So it's just to underline that, he's playing. And now that he's going to talk about business, see how he talks about business.
When you get to business, first purpose, then people, then product, and the profits will follow.
See, we have again the same structure. First, then. So he's very skilled in giving a sense of order. When he talks, all of a sudden, he has just in these 15 seconds ordered life in general. He's told us live, love, work, study, educate. Then he told us in which order we should prioritize, and then it's telling us how to run a business. So you see, barely 20 seconds into the speech, he appears as being knowledgeable, organized, structured, and is giving us clarity on the world. So that's a very elegant way to build the very beginning of a speech. There was a couple of hands raised at some point, and then they went down. I would be very happy to have other reactions on what you feel the way that. But here, for example, is so when you say, and then the profits will follow, as if it was self-evident and easy. What it conveys is that the impression, we don't know if it's true or not, is that profits is easy for him. He's dealing with people and he's dealing with purpose, and just the profits will come. So it gives us the sense that he's a very successful entrepreneur who doesn't even have to worry about money. He's so good. He's so such a great strategist and a great manager and entrepreneur that he thinks that profits follow. Again, whether it's true or not is not the question here. It's the impression that it gives, that he doesn't even have to worry about profits. Profits will follow. That's an amazing sense to convey with an audience, to just say, and then, money will come. That's as if it was that easy. It gives us the impression that it's easy for him to a certain extent. Again, whether it's true or not would be up to debate, and there are sources on WeWork and Adam Neumann for you to make up your own mind, but that's how it makes us feel. Let's just keep going a little.
So when I think of I think of an ecosystem that brings it all together. And the fabric of that ecosystem happens at the building, at the neighborhood, and at the city.
At the building, at the neighborhood, at the city. See, we have, it's almost like music. There are patterns of rhythm, of a pace, a scansion that is coming again and again and again. The more it talks, the more we feel like everything is structured.
I think the next 100 years, everyone sitting here, you're the leaders of the future. City-states is where it's at. I think governments from all over the world, without pointing any fingers, are having a very difficult time. I think as mayors, as leaders, as CEOs, it is our responsibility to set the trend of the future, and the trend is we versus me. And when by 2030,
saying that he's making you feel like you are here. So he's talking to mayor or people who work at a city level. So he's telling us that the nations, they're struggling. We don't know exactly what he means, but the nations are struggling, and the future is you. Yeah, you in the audience, you are working at the city level, and the future is the city. Again, that could be debatable, but that's very smart to tell people that are working at city level that the future is the city. If he was to talk to presidents and prime ministers saying nation states are struggling and the future is the city, you wouldn't be listened the same way. So that's very smart. He knows who's in the room and he's playing on that, whether it's on purpose, manipulative, or it's just spontaneous. It's very, very smart.
Well, it's working on your or the audience's emotions. So he is not spitting facts, or he is not he's not telling anything factual most of the time. He's just working on your emotions.
Well, here is build up in these first 30 seconds on two things. He structured the way that we see him. So he's very much playing on the ethos, his character. He feels knowledgeable. He feels like he knows what he's talking about. It feels like he's successful and confident. So he's conveyed a certain sense of his character, and he's played on the emotions of the audience. So for the moment, we're very much about ethos and pathos. But now he's going to jump into the numbers. So we're going to enter with the appearance of logos.
60% of the world population is going to move into major cities. That's another 1 billion people moving into major cities. Most cities are underbuilt 30 to 50%.
So now he's starting to spit numbers. And unless you're very knowledgeable, you don't know what these numbers come from. What is certain is that if you project yourself 10, 20 years in the future, there are very few projections that statistically everyone agrees on. So to say that cities are underbuilt 30 to 50% is a very vague statement. To say that in the entire world, most cities are underbuilt 30 to 40%. And what does that mean to be underbuilt? Does it mean that they are missing 50% of the? It's not clear, but now he's starting to give us a sense of logic and argumentation. Again, I'm not saying that the numbers are false. I'm saying that he's going very quick with numbers that cannot be that self-evident. But he's starting to give us even more the feeling that he knows what he's talking about, because now he's giving us facts and numbers. Let's listen to just a little bit more.
And this is in the next 12 years. You have no room. You have to reinvent how people live. You have to rezone. You have to reassess, and you have to reinvent how people work.
And you see, again, you have to. It always works in fours, and it's all, now we've started to be re-something. He's very good at giving you patterns that make you see where we are going, because you feel like there are things that are always coming back. It feels very structured. It feels very organized. Let's listen to the last numbers that he's throwing.
And one last thing to touch with, we have numbers behind it. Every WeWork.
With numbers behind it. But again, that doesn't tell us exactly where the number come from and if we have to take them for granted. But since from the beginning, he's made us feel like he knows what he talks about. And he made us feel good about ourselves listening to him. When he's starting to spit number, we are not in a state of mind to take them the same way that we would if he had opened with the numbers, or if we had a negative, as Sarah was asking earlier, if we had a negative impression of him, maybe we would take the number differently. But now that he's throwing number, he has built something before in his speech.
That you open 100,000 square feet, 2,000 employees, will immediately create 700 jobs in your city just to build it, and then 1,000 jobs a year inside that WeWork for the next 20 years.
So that number is just the idea that a WeWork is going to create 1,000 jobs a year every over 20 years is, if you think about it, just at some point absurd. How many people work there? Is he talking about people who rent a space? But then WeWork did not create the job. It's the people who are working who created the job, and they just rent a place. Or is he talking about people who are working for WeWork in the infrastructure, but then what's happening in this building that have 1,000 new jobs every year? Are they making food? Are they cleaning the offices? So that number is thrown very quickly. It cannot be that evident, but it's going very fast, and we trust him at this stage. So he's built up something. But if, for example, Benjamin had a negative impression of him at the beginning for any reason and feels, I don't like this guy, when the numbers start, he's going to take the numbers in a very different way. So you see, he played very much on the impression that we had on him. So ethos and pathos. So when the logos comes, we see it very, very differently. So there are layers that we need to see within the speech of entrepreneur, and truthfully within the speech of anyone. That's one of the key critical thinking skills that John Mingers, who at that time was at Warwick University, puts forward. He says that we have to engage with the actual content, the logic, and what is under the speeches that we hear.